But let's move into the main event after the three-course appetizer, I guess, with the Raptors, with the 76ers, and with the Bucks discussion. Now we're talking about best team in the Eastern Conference. We have four guys. Jake's still joining us, if you haven't heard us. Jake, our lovely patron, who is going to be on a special segment next month. Super excited for that. But we're all going to take a team. So Jake's going to take a team, Dave's going to take a team, Ricky's going to take a team, and I'm going to make a team. And we're just pretty much going to make the argument of why they're the best team in the Eastern Conference. Indiana fans, sorry you're not a part of this, but you lost your superstar in Victor Oladipo. So we're going to...
Someone needs to tell them because they keep winning games.
They're on a 4-game win streak and 6-4 of the last 10. And they just got Wesley Matthews. So, hey, maybe they are the best team in the Eastern Conference. But I think most people would agree that the consensus best four would be Milwaukee, Toronto, Boston, and Philly. Shockingly, Jake, the Philadelphia 76er fan, thinks that the Philadelphia 76ers are the best team in the Eastern Conference. So, Jake, give us the pitch on why Philadelphia is the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, being completely not biased here, they have the best starting lineup the best team because the starting lineup is nobody can match up with them, absolutely nobody, and they have the only guy who can even somewhat guard Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ben Simmons. He's the only guy who can kind of be a freak of an athlete and actually guard him. They have Jimmy Butler, who's also a great on-ball defender. And then Joel Embiid is one of the best, if not the best, rim protectors in the league. J.J. Redick also is going to get a lot more wide-open looks in the starting lineup because everybody else can be focused on them. And they finally have a bench. They finally have at least capable players who come off the bench. I mean, this team is just incredible. You saw last night they played against the second-best team in the West. Joel Embiid shot something like 4-17 and they still beat the Nuggets, who have a better record than them, I'm pretty sure. And they didn't even play that well. And that's the first game without any practice time, with nothing together. They still beat a top team in the West. And teams like the Celtics are 2-10 against the top 8 in the West.
The question I have for you, Jake, though, is right now they're 6.5 back of Milwaukee for the number 1 seed. Do you think it's possible that Philadelphia can make that run and become the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference?
No, I think 3 seed would probably be the ceiling.
Okay. But you still think that, when it comes to playoff time, they will be able to make that run?
Yeah, Milwaukee's haven't won a playoff series, to be honest, so we'll be all right.
All right. Dave, you are taking the side of the Boston Celtics, the team that's currently in 4th, tied with the 76ers at 6.5 games back. They were the team that, finished second to back-to-back years, right, against LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals, and now they, haven't really lived up to the expectations. They were the preseason favorite to win the Eastern Conference. You're still sticking by them, though.
Boston fans, bet you didn't expect to see me here.
I mean, we haven't gotten a ton of Boston hate.
I know, which is funny because I talk a lot.
Yeah, you've hated on Boston. You just haven't given, no one cares.
I guess not.
We'll just wait until we get Eric, one of our patrons who's from Boston.
Can't wait. But yeah, this is a Boston team where we haven't even seen them peak yet. Like, this is a super young team where putting together Kyrie Irving and a bunch of these wings, basically limitless wings, is their key to success. They are switchable everywhere. They are the team of the modern NBA. They're exactly what other teams are trying to combat. They pretty much just shoved a giant FU down the Sixers' throat to end last season, which was wonderful because exposing Ben Simmons for the phony that he was at the end of last year. I know, right? I'm going there.
You're going to watch it.
Taking LeBron James to Game 7, a game that they arguably should have won without their best player. I mean, this is a team that it just keeps getting better for them. They have Kyrie Irving, who, amidst the rumors about him potentially leaving, potentially staying, who knows, and I don't think Kyrie knows right now either, he is still one of the best players in the league. He's still one of the best ball handlers, period. When it comes down to it, they have amazing depth. They've got great young talent. Jaylen Brown's starting to hit his groove off the bench. Gordon Hayward, bit by bit, is getting better. You know how earlier in the season it was like 1 out of 10 games Gordon Hayward would look good? Mm-hmm. Now it's about 1 out of 5. And I think by the time we hit the playoffs, it's going to be much more consistent. So I expect this team to peak at the right time. I think there's a lot of teams who have had a great regular season, great first half of the season. They're patting themselves on the back thinking, we're setting ourselves up for success. Boston's a team that's going to take the whole season to get where they need to be. But when it comes playoff time, they're going to be all in.
Yeah, one thing to help your case a little bit, you're trying to peak at the right time, and I don't have your laptop to back this up, but after their 3-game losing streak, After Monday, January 14th, they lost to the Heat, Orlando, and then Brooklyn. Since then, they've only lost 2 games. They were 8-2 in their last 10. They lost to Golden State and the Lakers on a buzzer beater.
That Lakers game was amazing, by
yes,
the way.
it was. And since that date, January 15th to the present date, they've been 5th in net differential. So, I mean, they've been absolutely fantastic.
Marcus Smart is apparently an amazing three-point shooter. He's worked really hard to get there. Not only is he one of the best defenders, but now his shot is actually consistent, which is scary as all get out.
Both Marcuses, too. Marcus Smart and Marcus Morris.
Morris has been amazing all year, though.
Yeah, but he hasn't been that deadly of a three-point shooter throughout his career. Ricky, you are taking the side of the current number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks. Give us the pitch.
No, I know Jake throwing a little shade at my team, saying, "Oh, well, the Bucks haven't won a playoff series." But you know what the Bucks have done with this trade deadline a little bit before and now in it? They have added playoff experience. Before the trade deadline, a little bit before, they go, you know what? He wasn't doing that good. This year was worse than last year, or actually better than last year because LeBron wasn't there, and was kind of a little bit of a scapegoat in the playoffs, not as big as JR, but still a little bit of a scapegoat. We're going to add George Hill, who has that playoff experience, playing with LeBron, playing with that Cavs team. Oh, and by the way, team length, we're going to add a 6'9" power forward who can hit from beyond the arc that helped the Pelicans in their playoff run. I know they ran into the buzzsaw, which was the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
But 9 games, Nico lit it up last year.
Well, didn't he play with the Bulls the year before, too, in the playoffs?
Yeah.
He did.
He played with the Bulls, too. But it's like
extra
the
experience.
April-May is like April
combat
flower.
experience, too.
It's April showers bring Nico threes. That's what it is. Not May flowers, Nico threes.
Nice.
And he's going to help this team out. I know right now he's battling the injury, didn't play their last game, but he's a guy that's going to help them from beyond the arc. This is a team that is better coached than last year. They have added playoff experience. They have arguably one of the top 5, if not top 10, players in the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo.
You can say top 5.
I'm going to say it, then top 5.
Pretty locked in.
Yeah.
And this is a team that, let's be honest, should have beaten Boston in that first round, but Boston got lucky in that Game 7, and that catapulted them, gave them a little bit of confidence heading into their next round and then heading into the Eastern Conference Finals. This is going to be a different Bucks team than we've seen in the past.
I agree with you, too. And although they haven't won a playoff series with Giannis, I mean, in the past 2 years, it hasn't been his fault. 25.3 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, 5.2 assists per game, 1.8 steals per game, 1.2 blocks per game, only 2.8 turnovers per game, and shooting 55% from the field, playing 40 minutes. He's been nothing but spectacular in those 13 games.
Fear the deer, man. Fear the deer.
However, we are the North, and it's finally the time for the Toronto Raptors. It is, because now we want to talk about playoff experience. This team is rich with playoff experience. Kyle Lowry has struggled significantly in the playoffs, but now he is not going to be looked at as the guy if one guy struggles, because you have Kawhi Leonard, who arguably in the past 3 years when he's been in the playoffs has been the best player in the playoffs outside of LeBron James, because you look at the team that was unbeatable, the Golden State Warriors. He went down after they were almost about to beat them in Game 1, and I think that Spurs series and that Warriors series would have been hotly contested if he did not go down, and that was the only reason that they were in that series was because of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was Finals MVP before shutting down the best player in the game, LeBron James. And you look at the Grizzlies series as well. And I think in the same year, the Golden State one, he was a monster in that game, in that series, just absolutely dominating, taking over games left and right. He can do that. He can take that to the next level, and he's been resting this year. He hasn't been playing a full season, and that's going to be so beneficial when we get to the playoffs. It's not really because he's hurt. It's just to make sure that he's going to be fully rested and going. Kyle Lowry is one of the best passers in the league. We see the depth on this team, and we see what Nick Nurse has been able to do with this team. This team is not the same Toronto Raptors, just like the Bucks aren't the same Bucks team from the past 2 years. This isn't the same Raptors team from the past 3 years. They're not going to be choking in the playoffs because they have a clutch player in Kawhi Leonard in the playoffs. And I know I just talked about it in the Toronto Raptors segment, but Marc Gasol is the best pickup I've seen in a while. And I said it in the at least the segment that we did already, that at the time when we were talking about Marc Gasol possibly getting traded, I didn't realize how much I would like the acquisition, and until it happened, I didn't know how much I was going to like it. But this is a guy that he's been able to change his game so many different times. He's been Defensive Player of the Year before. He's been now a great three-point shooter. He's one of the best big men passers, probably not named Nikola Jokic, and he finally has something to play for. This is probably going to be the last time he could fully give a run to a team, and you just added him to possibly be your sixth man, and he's a guy that has been an all-star multiple times before in his career, all-NBA before, and he's coming off your bench possibly, and if if Ibaka's not playing well, if Siakam's not playing well, you can move around and have flexibility in that starting five, and then put Ibaka and Siakam out on there in a second unit if need be, and that was one of your best starting lineups throughout the season. So this is a team with so much flexibility, now so much talent and depth, and also just leadership in Kawhi Leonard and Marc Gasol and Kyle Lowry. This is a team that is absolutely dangerous. And yes, Kyrie Irving's a fantastic player, but is he enough of a leader? I know Kawhi Leonard is. Is Al
he?
Horford,
Wait, did you just say Kawhi Leonard a leader?
when it comes to the playoffs?
Didn't you bash him last year for not being a leader?
That's fine. No, I
just
did.
Murdered him the entire offseason about his lack of leadership ability.
Here's the thing, though, is that we're talking about the playoffs.
Is he going to play every game?
Yes, he's going to play every game. It's the playoffs.
I mean,
when was the last time he hasn't? When Zaza stepped under his foot.
I'm just saying, like, he seems very non-committal. Very non-committal out there.
This is Kawhi in the playoffs.
$13.5 million house in LA.
What was that? Oh, he bought another house in LA?
$500,000.
Yeah, $13.5 million.
No,
Technically,
13
Yeah,
million.
say, yeah.
It's like half a
Technically,
million.
it was San
Only
Diego.
Yeah, so we all listen to Bill Simmons then?
Yeah. But yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I just think that this is a team that's rich with depth, rich with veteran leadership, guys who have been there before. And I think this was a fantastic move to get Marc Gasol, and it just makes me think that this team with the ability to again flex around their lineups, to bring in guys like OG Anunoby off the bench, to bring in Fred VanVleet off the bench, and obviously their starting five of Siakam, Gasol / Ibaka, obviously good old Kawhi, Kyle Lowry. This team is ridiculous, and I think they're crazy deep. Now what we should talk about is probably the weaknesses. And Jake, you want to start off with Brett Brown?
No, because I don't think he's a weakness.
Oh!
What's up?
You would be in the very, very small minority.
Well, here, what's the weakness then for the Sixers?
There is none. They're just the best.
The point is to talk about what you think is possibly a weakness on this team.
Oh, the possible weakness is the fact that they like to blow leads all the time because their bench is inconsistent and loses interest in games. But I think that could have been solved with these trades. I mean, at least I would say the same for Ricky's team. At least my players on my team actually want to be where they are. I mean, the Celtics, Kyrie doesn't want to be there. Raptors, Kawhi's obviously leaving, and they try to trade Kyle Lowry. At least with my team, as far as we know, Jimmy wants to be there. He's kind of the wild card. But like I said, I don't think I label Brett Brown as a weakness as everybody else does. Their weakness is having to play T.J. McConnell 25 minutes a night off the bench in the playoffs.
I mean, he was a good player, though, last year for you guys in the playoffs. He was helping you win series. Brett Brown wasn't, so that's why I think he was a weekness, unless you think he's changed drastically.
I think there's an over-exaggeration blaming Brett Brown when multiple times during the game there was late turnovers by Ben Simmons that literally cost the game. And one time, off the inbound, nobody switched on to Al Horford off the screen. He got a wide-open layup.
Correct.
With like 10 seconds left. And the other time, Ben Simmons had an inbound when they were down one and just threw it to the other team. I mean, I don't understand how that's Brett Brown's fault.
I think that, late game, I think you have to be at least telling your players and making them aware of situations. I don't know if he did that exactly with Ben Simmons.
I understand that, but the whole thing with it last year was who the hell is going to take the last shot? I understand. And last year when Joel Embiid took the last shot, he got fouled and he didn't call it, and the NBA even said he got fouled.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't really see the blame when he didn't have as talented a roster as he does now. He had who's going to take the last shot last year? You're going to give it to Dario, Robert Covington. Ben Simmons can't shoot. Joel Embiid, obviously you could give it to him, and they did, and he got fouled and they didn't call it. So I mean, that whole season last year, that whole series last year, I would not blame on Brett Brown.
It kind of sounds like you're talking like Ben Simmons is the biggest weakness for the 76ers.
He's not the biggest weakness. I mean, actually, you probably could say that.
Are you worried about his playoff production?
No, did you see him pull up for three last night? Almost make it? Almost?
Hit back iron.
Almost make it?
Yeah.
Almost make it? I mean, no, I think Ben Simmons is obviously a liability when he's off ball, but this year I've seen more of a consistency playmaking than I did last year. He's way more aggressive this year going towards the basket. Last year he would kind of defer a lot in late game situations, or even when there was like a big moment in the middle of the game. This year he kind of seems more willing to go after it, and maybe it's like his girlfriend sitting in the crowd and he just wants to impress her or something. I don't know what it is, but he actually seems like he wants the ball now and he actually wants to make a play. And with the acquisition of Tobias Harris and everything like that, you can't help off him whenever he drives. I mean, they used to, like I said, when they played the Raptors this year, they literally put Kyle Lowry on Wilson Chandler, and when Wilson Chandler was standing in the corner, because that's all he did, they would just help off. They would help off him with Kyle Lowry whenever Ben Simmons drove and double team. You can't do that anymore with this team. Everybody around Ben Simmons can shoot. You literally cannot help defense off. You cannot rotate defense over to him, or else there's going to be a wide open three.
Dave, what are the biggest weaknesses for the Celtics?
Celtics' biggest weakness, I think, it still comes down to their lack of aggressive rebounding. It's one of the things that has hurt them for the last couple of years. Not having someone who can absolutely dominate the glass leads to, more second chances for other teams, especially, a team like the 76ers where they have a great center. And now I look at the Raptors with Marc Gasol obviously adding just one of the best centers in the game. Mm-hmm. It's definitely concerning that they're not able to do that, but at the same time, you get contributions from everyone. I love watching Jaylen Brown absolutely high point balls on rebounds. It's exciting. He's flying in from the outside wing and going aggressively for them. Horford, again, he's not amazing at rebounding, but he's good at everything, and he's just kind of that consistent leader. But I would say that is the biggest flaw in their game right now, is their lack of rebounding, which means more opportunities for other teams. Outside of that, it's still, you got to asterisk Gordon Hayward. Mm-hmm. He's getting paid a whole lot of money for not a whole lot of production. So until we see it consistently, that's their number 2 problem.
However, the only thing I will say with Gordon Hayward is, when you come to the actual playoffs, it doesn't matter how much you're making. It's just can you make plays in the right situations? Because, salary cap doesn't matter once you get to, those games. Ricky, biggest weakness for the Milwaukee Bucks. You've been clicking away.
It's easy. Everyone except for Giannis and Chris Midd. Because
so you make the addition, and you're selling us in the addition of Nikola Mirotic, but you're like, he's a big weakness.
It's everyone besides those two has to step up. Because I look at last year's playoff series, and I'm just going to take you through a little bit of story time with Grandpa Widmer here. Game 1 against the Celtics. Celtics won. Giannis had 35. Chris Midd had 31. Tony Snell played 33 minutes. You want to know how many points he had?
2.
He was Tony Snell.
Got it. Garbage.
His name is Tony Snell.
No, I know. But I'm just saying,
if you're counting on Tony Snell in the playoffs, you've done something wrong.
But you can look at other things, like Eric Bledsoe, 33 minutes, 9 points. Henson, 37 in that game.
Gone.
7 points. I know they're gone, but, still, the players that are there need to step up. Game 2, same thing. Giannis has his 30. Chris Midd had 25. Yes, some more people stepped up, but not enough. And that's what needs to be the center of attention is Giannis and Chris Midd can't do this by themselves. They're going to need, if you're getting quality minutes, you need to be hitting on your shots. Because if Nico goes cold, if Eric Bledsoe isn't hitting on all cylinders, then this team is weak. The biggest thing that's different, though, from last year to this year, I think they got a better coach this year, which is going to put them in better situations. But still, everyone besides Giannis and Chris Midd has to step up for the occasion in the playoffs.
A lot of liabilities.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up was the fact that I think that they realized that last year in the playoffs, and that's why they brought in Budenholzer, was to fix that offensively. And I think so far we have seen that, that they've been able to move the ball around. They've been able to get open shots for the guys that might not be able to hit more tightly contested shots. And we've obviously seen that pay off so far with how great this Milwaukee team and their offense has been flowing. So that you still don't think that's been taken away, though?
It could be with the Bucks. It's the two-sided coin. It's either going to be their greatest addition, their greatest positive, or it's going to be their greatest negative. It just depends on which way it goes. Good, it's great. Bad, it's going to be what we blame.
I think the biggest weakness, at least for the Raptors, is going to be, one, the inexperience of Nick Nurse in the playoffs. He hasn't been a head coach in this situation. Yes, he's been on the bench with Dwayne Casey for the past couple of years in the playoffs, but how will he be able to manage the games inside of playoffs, especially going up against Brad Stevens, who's been phenomenal in the past couple of years, Budenholzer, who has playoff experience as well, going up against Brett Brown, even, who has playoff experience from last year. That's going to be one weakness, and then obviously it's going to always come back to Kyle Lowry. He was a part of the Trash Bros with DeMar DeRozan. It's going to be a huge question. If he's able to hit his shots, he's able to go 38% from 3, and he's not able to, he's not turning the ball over in clutch minutes, and he's letting other guys miss shots, I think that would be huge. But as long as he's able to be efficient, that's going to be massive for Toronto. But if he's not able to be efficient, that's going to take him out of games, and that's going to take them out of they're going to be playing 4-on-5 basketball offensively, because that's what they were doing last year when he was completely off and just cold. He won't have as much usage as he did last year, which is going to be big, but can he also stay healthy will be a big problem, because he hasn't been a pinnacle of health recently with his back problem. So a big thing with them is going to be Kyle Lowry's health and his productivity.
And another thing, we bring up TJ McConnell as a liability during playoffs potentially with the backup point guard ball handler responsibilities. I would say Fred VanVleet, very same boat.
Yeah.
Absolutely very same boat.
I think he's a little bit more talented than TJ is. I think he's a little bit more well-rounded of a basketball player. He doesn't have the grit and grind and the effort that TJ McConnell does. But I do think that Fred has proven himself, especially last year, to be a better offensive producer. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton, which I do appreciate. And he does play fairly hard. So I think that he's a guy that, again, if he's not turning the ball over and he's hitting his shots, he can be fine. Where TJ is just not as skilled as Fred VanVleet is. But he will always put that effort in. And he's a guy that always gets his teammates rallied up in TJ McConnell. So I think that the depth is still there for Toronto. I'm not too worried about the depth, especially Fred VanVleet. You look at the playoffs last year. I don't think he was massively great, but no one on that team was.
Say, Jake, do you have a opinion Fred VanVleet versus the GOAT?
I mean, I'm taking the GOAT. It's just simple. I mean, I don't know. Fred VanVleet's a good player. I think they're both liabilities, obviously, defensively. But Fred VanVleet definitely has more of an ability to stretch the floor than TJ McConnell. So I think he's more reliable come playoff time.
Yeah, I mean, last year he shot 28% from 3 and 33% from the field, and 2.2 assists to pretty much a turnover a game. If he's able to spread that out to what he's doing right now in the season, he's able to take that over into the postseason. I think that would be huge. And having now 13 games under his belt, going to be probably most likely 20 if they go to a 7-game series, somehow get bounced in the first round. That's going to be something that I think we're going to see the effects of. Final question will be, Jake, to you. We'll start off. Who is the biggest, or at least the toughest matchup out of these other 3 teams for the Philadelphia 76ers? Do you think it's going to be the Celtics? Do you think it's going to be the Raptors? Or do you think it's going to be the Bucks?
I think the Raptors. I don't think it's the Celtics. The Celtics got to throw out. I don't think they're even close. Also, Kyrie Irving.
You want to fight me, bro?
Kyrie Irving just got diagnosed with a right knee sprain. Just saying. So he's out now.
When isn't he?
Yeah, true. And so I think Milwaukee. Kawhi is obviously. I raved about him when we talked about top 10 players earlier in the year. I called him the 3rd best player in the league. I still believe he is. And I think he has the ability to almost quietly take over a series defensively, and then offensively, he's going to give you 25 a night. If Kyle Lowry can just give them some sort of consistency offensively, then they're fine. He cannot go back and revert to how he was with DeMar DeRozan. Hopefully that was just because how bad DeMar DeRozan was playing. He also played bad. Milwaukee's going to have to prove it to me. They're going to have to win a playoff series first, and then maybe I'll believe. But if you can shut down Giannis, Chris Middleton played great in that Boston series, but he's gonna have to play really consistent in big minutes, and I'm not quite confident he can do that, and I'm way more confident in Marc Gasol and Kawhi Leonard being able to carry the Raptors through a series.
Dave, who's the biggest matchup problem for the Boston Celtics?
It is also the Raptors. The Raptors are good, and it's annoying because they're good in places that hurt the Celtics. Pascal Siakam's epic growth this year has been unparalleled. I mean, it's something no one expected that he would take that next leap in the right direction. He is scary in transition. He is scary off the boards, and he can stretch the floor enough to make you actually have to guard him. So the combo of Serge, Pascal, and now Marc Gasol does concern me as a Celtics stan. Yeah,
you're a huge Celtics stan. Siakam's been ridiculous. Nothing you'd expect from a guy out of New Mexico State.
And it's funny because I had it pegged as OG was going to take that next step, but really he's kind of stayed even regressed a little bit, not shot.
Yeah, for sure. Ricky, you going to go 3 for 3?
No, for me it's the 76ers.
Son of a bitch!
I feel like, and here's the thing, I feel like the thing with the Bucks, and if I would have looked at this at the beginning, I would have been like, ugh, I would have second-guessed it. If the playoffs were to start today, you want to know who would have the best road out of all 4 of our teams? Your team, Sean.
The easiest?
The Raptors. Yeah, the easiest. Because, I look at it where the 76ers and Celtics would have to play each other. That's going to be a hard series.
We know how that goes.
Then when the Bucks do beat the Heat, because there's no way that the Heat would beat the Bucks, the Bucks then have to play either the Celtics or the 76ers, where the Raptors, they'll play the Hornets, which they should beat, And then, I get either the Pacers without Vic or the Brooklyn Nets who just lost to the Bulls. Like, we add Otto Porter, and assumingly we can beat the Brooklyn Nets, so I would assume the Raptors could. They're the team that I look at right now. If it stays like it is, and of course 3 through 5 could change because the Pacers, Celtics, and 76ers are so close, the Raptors could end with a very easy road on paper.
Yeah. I think the biggest matchup problem for the Raptors is going to end up being the Indiana Pacers. Kidding. I thought someone was going to laugh.
No, just daggers.
Yeah, no, that was horrible. I think it's probably going to end up being, Milwaukee has given them tough series in the past before, but Kawhi Leonard on Giannis, I think that's going to be a favorable matchup. Well, not favorable, but probably one of the most favorable matchups you can get on Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's still going to put up great numbers.
I would have loved if you said the toughest matchup would have been themselves.
Oh, I was thinking about saying that. I just didn't want to be a huge asshole. Because it honestly could be. If Siakam's not playing great, that's going to hurt himself. If Kyle Lowry's not playing great, that's going to hurt himself. If Marc Gasol's playing like he did in December, that's going to hurt them. If Serge Ibaka is going to regress to any Serge Ibaka that's not this year, that's going to hurt them. If OG Anunoby's not going to come off the bench. Yeah, well, that's what I said. If he's not playing like he was, if he was playing like he was in December, it's not going to work out. Yeah. If OG Anunoby continues to be, bad, then it's not going to work out. If Fred VanVleet turns to trash again, it's not going to work out. That's a big problem. And Budenholzer is not, or not. Nick Nurse does, could just totally shit the bed like Brett Brown did last year. That's my opinion, Jake. Sorry. I think the team that would give him the most trouble though would probably be Boston, just because of their defensive, versatility. Because Siakam's a weird matchup, but also Marcus Morris proved last year that he can defend LeBron James. You look at Al Horford on Marc Gasol. I think it's veteran versus veteran. I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup. Both on both sides. I think both of them can really kind of cancel each other out, both defensively. And I look at Kawhi Leonard. If Jason Tatum's going to play like he did last year, he can possibly slow down Kawhi Leonard. And then you have Kyrie Irving on Kyle Lowry. Kyrie Irving, if healthy, is going to win that matchup every single time. And if Gordon Hayward's playing like he can off the bench, well, there kind of goes the depth for Toronto because they have the best player coming off the bench.
And Jaylen Brown.
And Marcus Smart. So
I heard
think
you like switching wings.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that I think if you're able to slow down Kawhi and you're able to slow down Siakam, then this team is beatable. And that's the only team that I could probably see giving them trouble. The Bucks are interesting just because of the fact of, obviously Giannis, they have Chris Midd, and obviously even the 76ers too, because they have Tobias, who's not a great defender, but still is lengthy enough to possibly slow down Siakam. But Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, those guys are huge. And I think Simmons can definitely guard Siakam, and Jimmy Butler is one hell of a player. He's a guy that is always going to give him 100%. On the defensive side, he's going to try to prove that he's better than Kawhi Leonard. That's the kind of guy that Jimmy has, the mentality that Jimmy has. But I think the 76ers kind of get canceled out because the team that I think has the most opportunity to shut down or slow down Joel Embiid is the Toronto Raptors with the addition of Marc Gasol. I think he's the best matchup against Joel Embiid that any team has in the Eastern Conference. So I think that's kind of the reason why I'm a little less afraid of the 76ers. Also, again, I'm not huge on Brett Brown, and we've seen before if Kawhi Leonard's possibly able to slow down Ben Simmons on the offensive side or Pascal Siakam, that will obviously slow this team down a ton because you don't have a secondary ball handler. If you're shutting down their first ball handler, that ball's not going to move. And then I think you look at Milwaukee. Toronto has proven that they've beaten them before. And if you're letting Giannis beat you, you just got to shut down everybody else. And I'm much more afraid of Giannis just putting up, or I'm not that afraid of Giannis putting up 40 and shutting down everybody else. So I would say that it's probably going to end up being Boston because this is a team that Toronto hasn't beaten in the playoffs in the past couple of years. So that's probably going to be the team that I fear the most. Jake, final thoughts on best team in the East?
Trusted the process all the way here. I'm going to keep trusting it, and I'm going to get us to the NBA Finals. That's about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough road. You've got great starters, and if everybody plays 44 minutes, you might stand a chance. But beyond that, I don't know if you've done enough to fix your problems. I'm just saying, I got a young team.
Anything, so.
We didn't need to. We've got a better head coach. We've got better young talent. We've got better wing depth.
And you have more injury history.
More injury history?
So there's another plus.
I'm just saying. Well, I think that it's pretty obvious that Boston's going to go right back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And without a LeBron James there, they got the clear road.
Ricky, final thoughts on Milwaukee?
I really hope that the Pacers fall to either 4 or 5 and then get a shocker in the first round.
Out of
I have
all of us,
backtracked a little bit.
Yeah, you've sold Milwaukee the worst.
Can I do your job for you real quick, then?
I mean,
yeah. Well, who do you think right now after hearing it? Well, who did the best job of persuading you?
who did the best job?
Who do you
of
think's the best team in the East?
Well, the only thing for me is like everything on paper looks good for the Bucks. We've got home. We're gonna have home field. I'm gonna say we because I'm defending them right now.
Chicago
so
North.
I'm gonna come out with a we. Oh God, that really pisses me off because you're not Chicago, you're Milwaukee. But
well, that's the point. That's why it's Chicago North.
Yep.
It's more of a disrespect to Milwaukee than it is Chicago.
Everything with the Bucks is home court advantage, better coach than last year. The talent around Giannis and Chris Midd are better. It's just for me, I am a little nervous about Boston and 76ers, like Boston and Philly in that second round. Not saying that the Bucks are for sure not going to win it, but if I'm choosing, I'd rather have the Pacers fall, maybe get an upset, see them in the second round instead of having to go against either one of those Bostons or those 76ers. But if you want to beat the best, you got to get through who the people think are the best, and that's what the Bucks will do.
I will say that I picked Indiana to be in the Eastern Conference Finals preseason. Mm-hmm. So as a Toronto Raptors stan for the second,
with Vic,
I was going to just make a joke.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ricky. Really appreciate you helping out the podcast. I was just going to say, I hope the Indiana Pacers also fall so we don't see them in the second round.
Okay.
Anyways, the Raptors are the best team. They have, I think, probably the second best player in the Eastern Conference. They have, I think, probably the best center. Second best center, because I'm not going to say over Joel Embiid. I kind of forget about him every now and then. Second best center in Marc Gasol, at least out of these teams. I think he's better than Al Horford. And then I think Kyle Lowry is a guy that's been there before. And I think they have probably this, around the most amount of depth. And they don't have that injury history that Boston has. So I think that, the coaching edge goes to Boston, but I think the depth is probably equal. And I think, we've seen that, Kawhi Leonard has been able to come up in the playoffs big. And, they think they have a very pumped up Marc Gasol who's ready to win. And I think that this is a team that, is trying to redeem themselves, and they're making one final push to make sure Kawhi Leonard can stay and they can get to the NBA playoffs. And I think NBA Finals, I think now is the time for Toronto. But let us know down in the comments what you think the best team in the Eastern Conference is. Do you agree with Jake that it's the 76ers? Do you agree with Dave that it's the Boston Celtics? Do you agree with Ricky that it's the Milwaukee Bucks? Ricky doesn't even agree with himself. Or do you agree with me that it's the Toronto Raptors? Jake, final thoughts after the double segment.
Thanks for having me on again, and I really can't wait till next month. It's going to be interesting.
Should we ruin the surprise, or should we keep it a surprise?
Keep it a surprise.
It's a surprise.
All right.
Keep it a surprise.
I also cannot wait. We're going to have Joel Embiid on the podcast with Jake. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments.
Get my pants.
And Jake, thank you for the support as always.